The Sawyer Mini is the most versatile personal filtration system available. It's a perfect solution for backpacking, hiking, hunting, fishing, scouting, international travel, and emergency preparedness. At a mere 2 ounces, the Mini fits in the palm of your hand and can filter up to 100,000 gallons of water from any freshwater lake, river, or stream. The Sawyer Mini has a 0.1 micron absolute pore size. It was tested to 10 million parts of bacteria and 1 million parts of protozoa without a single breakthrough. This is the highest level filters can be tested to, so we're confident these are the highest rates of filtration available.
And we are back. Welcome, everyone. Not Chris, obviously. My name's John Wheaton. For those of you that don't know, I am one of the owners of Righteous Savages and the co-host of Survival Dispatch News. Welcome to the stream, and I'm going to bring in my partner in crime. I shouldn't probably say that because he's a cop, but anyways,
well, I think the big question is like, yeah, where's Chris?
Yeah,
what'd you do with him?
Chris is off slinging some gold tonight, so he asked us graciously to host for him. And there are some changes coming down the road where I'll be doing some more hosting solo as well, coming up very, very soon. So that should be fun. And we're going to bring in our guest, Mr. Tony Blauer, Mr. Self-defense extraordinaire. And it's kind of funny. We were actually joking before the show started. We literally just did a podcast, our podcast, which is going to drop next week with Tony. So that's interesting. It was the day of the Mike Tyson fight, ironically. We were talking about that. And we're going to get to that in a little bit. But what we wanted to do tonight was give everyone an opportunity to kind of see how Tony would analyze some things as far as the real world things that may happen that could happen to any of us in the world. We got some videos we're going to react to, and it should be a really, really fun time. So let's go ahead and get rolling. So Dave, I'm going to let you start off here and kind of set us up for this first little bit.
Yeah, so cool. Thanks for having me on here, everybody. So since we have Tony Blauer on here, every time we've talked to Tony, it's just my brain kind of goes crazy. I've got so many questions, and so I kind of want to dig in there. And since we're talking on the topic of self-defense, this is very important, and we're going to talk about Lake and Riley a little bit later on and kind of what's going on with that. But I kind of, in our training, we want to develop kind of general principles for people to live by to help them manage some of these crazy scenarios better. So it's easier to have them work their way through the process of defending yourself and making decisions in a hurry with limited amounts of time. And one of those things, one of the phrases I use to describe this is just called rules of engagement. Like, how do I know when things we train to use, but when is it okay to use those things? When should I take any type of action, whether it's run, defend myself, whatever? So, John, I don't know if you want to hit that first video or not yet.
Yep. You're going to bring it up. You want to give it a kind of
do we need to caution the audience about any of this?
Yeah, I was getting ready to do that. So some of these videos, I'm going to, for the sake of us being on YouTube, I'm going to cut out some of the graphic nature of some of these videos. But this first video is going to give you guys an idea of how fast this stuff can happen. And so this is body cam footage from Las Cruces, California, I think it is, or is it New Mexico? New Mexico. Right. And it's police body cam. It's going to give you guys a view of really what this, how fast this stuff can happen. So give me just a second, bring it up here. And here we go.
Even though this is a law enforcement video, it does kind of apply to everybody.
Yep. Okay, here we go.
You've been staying here for a while? What's up? Is this your place? So you're the one who called? You're the one who called? I didn't call. Huh? I didn't call. Oh, fuck!
I'm going to stop it there because that gets very graphic very fast.
Yeah, let me give you a little context on that video. So the suspect there was a homeless guy suffering some mental health issues, and he was the one who called the police. He called the police to set them up, to get them there. It was his whole intention from the very beginning was to stab a police officer. So the end result was that officer unfortunately died from his wounds, and just terrible. And it kind of brings up a lot of topics, a lot of things for us to think about in our own personal defense. But the first one, in the last couple of years of my law enforcement career, I noticed there was a trend in law enforcement, and this probably goes for civilians too, to where a lot of cops these days don't ever really think anything bad is ever going to happen to them. And you would think in law enforcement, officers would know, this is a violent job. Things could happen at a moment's notice. But I think people really don't understand how things can turn bad in such a short amount of time. I just want to talk first, Tony, a little bit about mindset, just our everyday walking around mindset. Law enforcement saying that was be polite, be professional, but have a plan to kill everybody you meet. And, that's, joking around a little bit there, but some of that is true. And I want you to just touch on kind of what our mindset should be, just every day walking around dealing with people.
Yeah, I mean, part of me wants to, dig into the video as soon as possible, but there's a concept there of, like everyone talks about head on a swivel, situational awareness, look out for the anomalies, and so on and so forth. This is a very interesting video that kind of amplifies all of that. Even though the guy's a cop walking, there was a level of darkness, of energy, of weirdness, of, usually when a cop walks towards you, you hold your ground or back up. You never step forward. That's like a midget with a fucking flag going in front of you going, you guys, can I say midget on our call? So like when someone says, hey, were there any warning signs? Yes, there was a midget with a flag going, there's something up here. There was, and it's tragic he lost his life, but there were so many nuances that he failed to pick up on because of what we call in law enforcement, when we train law enforcement, a presumed compliance mindset. You just assume that because you got a gun and a badge and a flag on your sleeve, that people are just going to listen to you. I know we're trying to make this generic for any audience, not just for law enforcement. And you asked me a question about situational awareness and mindset walking around. And I've shared this with Chris, and I shared this when we talked. Every survivor of violence who lived to tell the tale said they had a bad feeling before the attack. Every single one of them. That's 100%. And so, and I don't want to get too neuroscience-y or nerdy here, but everyone listening, we can't walk around with a friggin' magnifying glass, everywhere we go. You're going to be on your phone. You're with your kids. You're with your family. You're distracted. You're filling up gas. You're at the ATM. There are certain environments where you do want to be truly head on a swivel. Pumping gas at 2:00 in the afternoon at a busy gas station where there's 8 other cars there. You're pretty safe. Shit can happen. Pumping gas at 2 a.m. and you're the only person and it's dark. Like you can't go in there with the same mindset. So a lot of it is where are you, and then turning on. But what I want everyone to get is this: we have a built-in radar system called intuition. And so Dave, as a cop, and we don't know each other that well, but I'm going to predict Dave's head movement here. Okay. It's going to go up and down when I ask him this question, and don't try to make me look good. Dave, when you were arresting somebody, did you know almost all the time if they were going to run or fight just by how they were behaving inside the reactionary gap?
Yes.
Yeah. Like every cop answers the same thing. The difference is not every cop knows what to do. So that means, so everyone in the audience listening to this, you will know something's wrong. You just might not know what to do. This is why, what you guys espouse, hey, get trained, get prepared, be able to protect yourself, be able to protect your family, be able to be a courageous bystander. That's what we do with our company. It drives me crazy when people go, yeah, I get what you're saying, but that won't happen to me. And so the easiest thing to talk about and the most important thing to talk about is that situational awareness only works effectively if you connect it to your internal self-awareness and your internal self-talk. This is a really nuanced distinction with when we teach situational awareness. I don't know if that makes sense, or if you want me to give some examples.
Yeah, for sure.
So basically why I say that external situational awareness and internal situational awareness need to communicate with each other is that every victim of violence who lived to tell the tale had a bad feeling before the attack. That means their inner voice, their intuition said, shit, something's off here. But because they lived to tell the tale, they didn't avoid the confrontation. Do you get that? I guarantee that had that officer lived, and I interviewed him, I said, dude, when you were walking up, did you feel your physiology change? Did you feel the hair on the back of your neck change? Did you know something was completely different compared to the 10,000 other arrests that you made where nobody tried to murder you, right? Energetically, right before something happens, we go, oh, fuck, like, here we go. And so what we teach people is to pick up those pre-contact indicators, the energetic ones. And I'm not all, crystals and incense here. I'm not getting weird. I'm just going, hey, this is in our program, in our spear system program, we call this the choose safety model. Had this officer, as he walked up, said, this is weird. This guy stood up really quickly. And then he I can't see his right hand. And he's kind of like leaning towards me. I'm going to stop here at 40 yards out. Talk to him, because I guarantee, you remember Dennis Tuller's research on 21 feet. I guarantee that if he had stopped at 22 feet, that this guy still would have pulled out the knife like he did. And this guy at least would have had a chance to draw his weapon and get offline. But what I would have rather him do is walk in there and go, this is fucking weird. This guy's behaving weird. I got a bad feeling and I have zero backup. I'm going to back out of here. I'm going to be ready to grab my gun, and I'm going to call for backup because there's something different about this guy.
Yeah.
Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, one of the things we teach guys to ask yourself is, what are the consequences if I don't do something right now? And that situation, if that officer didn't do something, there would just be a homeless guy sitting under an awning next to a vacant building.
Right.
So there's time and opportunity to kind of sit back a little bit. But let me ask you, this is a really tough question. Let's say you find yourself, you weren't paying attention. You weren't listening to your spidey senses, and you ended up 2 feet from a guy that's pulling out a 10-inch knife on you, and now he's charging you. And this officer did what I think what a lot of people do is just they try to run backwards, which in most videos I see, 99% of everybody that tries to run backwards really quickly falls down like this officer did. So what if any suggestions would you have? Like, what would your suggestion be for protecting yourself in that moment if you did find yourself in that worst case scenario?
So this is a great question, and this is why anybody who's interested in self-defense, I'm going to make a shameless plug for our research here. Do one of our one-day Be Your Own Bodyguard courses, or get our human weapon system program. You can get it through Chris and Survival Dispatch, or get to one of our spear courses, because here's the challenge, Dave. If you poke a single cell amoeba under a microscope, you take a pin, and you put a single cell amoeba under a microscope and you poke a cell, it'll pop away from the pin. Meaning at a cellular level, we move away from pain, we move away from heat, we move away from danger. An untrained person will always backpedal and trip. And this is actually a demo we do in our law enforcement and our regular class to explain that running backwards is always slower than running forwards. And what we do is we actually have, we'll have a bad guy, with a knife or empty hand, getting a 2-point stance like this. And then we'll have the officer standing beside him, like backpedaling like this, reaching for their kit. And all we do is in a mat room, we just say 3, 2, 1, go. And the cop or the concealed carry citizen in the class running backwards will always fall, because when you're reaching for your kit, you lose a lot of your coordination and agility to make stuff happen. So what's wild about this is that it's not sufficient to just say, don't run backwards, because if you haven't trained this, the neurobiology of the sudden threat makes our body recoil. So our training, what we do is we teach people how to weaponize the startle response. It takes a little bit of training, but how to go from micro flinch, turning away, going, backpedaling, to micro flinch, front towards enemy. And you convert the flinch, because the hands will always come up. And you saw it while this guy was screaming. You saw finger splayed, hands coming out. So that's neurobiology. What we're doing is we're teaching people, when the flinch happens, this is going to happen, but we want the limbic system, reactive brain will flinch. We want executive function, cognitive brain to convert. So if I do it towards the camera, where Dave, just pretend you're going to slash at me for a second.
Mm-hmm.
But no, like come up fast. So if I do that, my next response is, as you come at me, is to drive towards you. I may get cut on the forearms, but I'm going to overhook wrap, and I'm smashing your throat and your face. I'm taking the fight to you. Now you're moving backwards psychologically and physically. And we've done this. I mean, my background, 1988 is when we developed the SPEAR system, and we've worked with every acronym group and militaries, law enforcement, SWAT, all over the world. Charging the threat is military figured that out with their immediate action drills, charge the threat. But doing it at extreme close quarter and weaponizing the startle flinch is different and nuanced. And so but it's a choiceless choice. At close, and we have a maxim, I think you'll dig this one, John, and I figured this out in the 80s when I was trying to figure out how to weaponize the flinch. I realized that moving away from danger can oftentimes put you in more danger. That was the observation, that if I pick up a baseball bat and you go, fuck, and you turn around, you're stepping right into the Louisville Slugger print, right? If I go to hit you with a tennis racket and you go, and you reach back for your gun, I'm going to smash a serve across your face. Like you're moving right into that.
It's just like in baseball, a pitcher wants to get a pitch inside because you can't get the full power on your swing.
Right. Yeah.
That's why they jam a hitter, and the greatest hitters are the ones that can still get power on the inside like that. But that applies to self-defense, I would think, because it closes the distance and it does not allow them to get full power behind a swing of something.
Well, so here's the thing, John. If I'm here talking to you and I'm inside that reactionary gap, and now I can't see the knife that you have. If you come around to stab me in the head, and I'll check it out, go to stab me, I'm going, hey, John, take it easy. And I do this and I move in, it might sail past my head, but my left arm is smashing into your radial nerve. My right arm is hitting you across the brachial, the trachea, Adam's apple. And we work this shit. It's so effective, but it's counterintuitive until you do some reps, because you've got to override the behavioral instinct to move away from danger.
Yep.
Yeah, distance.
But it's
distance management.
Well, it's counterintuitive to a certain extent. That's why you have to train it into your brain, because your first instinct, like you were talking about, is to get away from it. I got to create distance. I got to get away from it, you know, and And really, it's counterintuitive. Just like in a firefight, like they talk about, if you stay still in a firefight, you're dead. You're pinned down. You're dead. But if you move towards the enemy, it's harder for them, ironically, to actually to win the fight if you're moving forward.
Yeah, that's a pretty extreme case there, that video. And on a side note, there was a civilian that rolled up, saw what was going on. He was actually in the Army. He's an Army Ranger. He was carrying concealed, rolled up and confronted the suspect and shot and killed him.
Yeah.
And tried to render aid to the officer, and it was just too much to overcome. I think the officer got stabbed 10 times in the head and neck, and it was just a bad deal. So we're going to slow down, go a little bit less extreme now, John. I think there's a video of the officer getting slapped on the street, out on the sidewalk, like outside a bar or something. A lot of people, when it comes to physical aggression, don't really know where their boundaries are. We all kind of know where our personal space is, but I'm trying to come up with kind of like rules of engagement for less severe circumstances. Like at what point do you actually push somebody away from you, or what point do you start to physically defend yourself against somebody that might not be armed, might not have a knife or gun? So I'll roll this video real quick, and then we'll talk about it.
So the sound doesn't come in right off the bat on this one. So like when the guy starts walking up here, you'll see him walking from a distance.
Yeah.
And he's yelling. You can't hear it, but he's yelling. And then the sound comes in right around here.
Okay. 972, can we work more units at Church of Maine?
Back up!
We need more units at Church
Back
of Maine.
up! Back up! Back up! I'm gonna take you! Back up! Back up! Back up! You can't tase me!
417, laser deployed.
Back up! Show me your hands! Back up! Show me your hands! You're gonna get tased again! Show me your hands! Down on the ground! Down on the ground! Yeah, on the ground. On the ground. On the ground.
Finally, a police officer walks up and says, "Is he under arrest?" and grabs him and throws him down. But you could see in the beginning, this suspect is walking up from a mile away, very aggressive, and the officer literally just stands there and does nothing at all. Doesn't walk to the side, doesn't take a couple steps back, just stands there. And at some point, you could run away. You got a lot of options, but at some point you might have to physically put hands on somebody. And what is that line in the sand? What is that threshold? What should it be?
That was uncomfortable to watch. And what it reminds me of is just how ineffective so much defensive tactics training is. And I will say this, not to create even more controversy, because most people in the martial arts self-defense world have a let's call it a in the same way the left and the right have a toxic relationship. A lot of people are like that with me. They don't like the fact that we use actual science to explain why things happen, and build a system around how the body actually moves, that we study violence, fear, and aggression as opposed to martial arts. So the issue here is real simple. And what's interesting is the cop behaved just like any man or woman would behave if this was in a bar or at a gas station, or just picture anybody here, someone walking up, you don't know them, and they're like, yeah, you with the Doc Holliday shirt, and you're like, what the fuck's this guy? And I'm talking to you. Like Dave, someone could come up to you and smack you or smack me. While our brain, this is actually a good moment. I'm sure everyone listening to this remembers when Will Smith smacked Chris Rock.
Yeah.
Okay. So I did a whole article on that. And you guys, if you guys, anyone listening to this who digs anything I'm saying, go to my Substack, tonyblauer.substack.com, and go read the Will Smith gets Chris Rock article, because it explains reaction time and circles. Like, while your brain is recalibrating, going, the fuck is this? What's going on here, right? Someone can get real close to you while your brain is going, dude, I don't even know you. What the fuck's your problem? That guy, the cop, it was almost like somebody, like he was out for Halloween dressed as a cop. Meaning you didn't see any type of any training. And what was that? Was that like a taser for minnows and babies? Like, the guy didn't even react when he got tased. So was that guy on like crazy drugs, or did that thing need to be recharged or something? I don't know. But the no, you had 5 or 6 cops around. No one knew what they're doing until that one guy, came in there. And but the hold on a second, I gotta read this. I hate to be the guy, but this is why some women should not be cop. She sat there and watched. I don't know, Matt.
It wasn't just a woman. There were several guys there not doing anything.
But I want to say that, like, she was the only person giving commands, and I think she was the one putting the gloves on, getting ready to make a sandwich. Did I just say that? Did I just get canceled?
Yeah. There's so much to talk about there, just on the law enforcement side, just by itself.
But you could see no training. And then so here's a neat thing for all of you out there listening to this. There's a part of our program that we call the Trojan Horse nonviolent postures. So the Trojan Horse principle is this idea of how can you get into a fighting stance that doesn't look like a fighting stance, because body language is 60% of communication. So that means if I look at, so let's say John and Dave walk up to me on the street and I blade and I go, what's up, guys? And you see this all the time with guys. Hey, man, I don't want to fight. And they blade and they're pointing. I don't want to fight, right? But the body language is, that's like brandishing a gun. I'm sure there's a lot of concealed carry holders here going, hey, man, let's not do this. Well, depending on how crazy the person is, how unstable the person is, what you're saying is 3, 2, 1, go. You're saying, let's draw. You're brandishing, right? So when you get in a fighting stance, you're brandishing your weapons. So we created a nonviolent posture system that has multiple stances. One of them looks like this. 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 And there's 6 or 8 nonviolent postures that are congruent with the distance and the conversation you're having. So if we're real far back, I might have my hands on my hips going, what's going on, guys? And then we get a little bit closer and my arms going, come on, guys, seriously, what's up? You guys, I got no money. I told you that. Hey, listen, we get a little bit closer, I get a little bit closer, but I've already playing Battleship on your head. I know where my fingers can go, my palm can go, my forearm can go. And if I need to, smash and hit, and then I'm out with a gun, like I can draw and make the move from the nonviolent posture. And it's I call it the Trojan horse metaphor, because that's got to be the stupidest story ever. I hope it's just a scam, right? You remember the Trojan horse?
Yes.
Right. So imagine, hey, there's a wooden horse outside the compound. There's no guard. There's no soldiers guarding it. Let's steal it and
bring it into the city and party around it.
Right. And so I want you to be thinking that when you're in the street, and this goes for if we've got public safety listening to this, or just good Samaritans, be the Trojan horse. Have the warriors hidden inside. You don't brandish, you don't telegraph. That guy knew nothing about self-defense, the cop. But and I'd say this, a big part of our business is training police trainers. And I always tell them, you are responsible for what's going on in the street. You need to fight for more realistic, more responsible training. That cop went through the academy that has a bell curve because police are quitting. So we've lowered the bell curve so everyone can pass. And he had 0 training. He might have qualified on some bullshit shooting test. He maybe did a test where they sprayed him with OC and he was able to handcuff somebody who wasn't trying to hurt him. And then he got a thumbs up and he got thrown out in the street in a uniform that didn't even fit him without any skills to de-escalate or protect himself.
So he got some training that night, whether he was wanting to or not.
Yeah.
That moment hopefully sticks with him, and the next time something like that happens, he'll understand that I think this is leading to something bad.
So Dave and everyone on the call, when somebody gets within arm's reach, think of the acronym WAR. Somebody's about to like fucking start a war with you. And I want the acronym WAR to be within arm's reach for you. If somebody can touch you, right? They can poke you in the eye, punch you in the throat, quick shot, stun you. Can they stomp on your head, pull out a gun, grab your gun? Yeah. So when you get within arm's reach of somebody, it is imperative that you get your hands up in this, what we call a nonviolent posture. And here's the thing about it. CCTV, idiots with smartphones, optics on law enforcement. Somebody's looking, not just the threat or the assailant in front of you, but somebody is looking at what your behavior and your body language is doing, right? And so if you're the guy, so if this is nonviolent posture and you're watching from a distance and I'm going, hey man, that's close enough, back up. I could be saying, you can't hear me, I'm going to palm strike you in the face if you take another step forward, and then I'm going to kick you in the balls. But the CCTV only sees this, right? It looks like you're trying to de-escalate it. Body language, again, is 60% of communication. If the suspect, if you're a cop, or the aggressor, if you're a citizen, suddenly goes to smack you, the fact that your hands are up and pulsing means your fast twitch muscle fibers are engaged, and you will have more immediate access to your startle response, which serves us like a biological airbag. So this cop had his hands down, let the guy walk up right beside him, hand in his face, smacked him in the face, just like Will Smith. If my hands are up and you go to smack me, I only have to move inches for that airbag to cover my head. And this part of the startle or flinch is totally instinctive. You don't need to learn it. So super interesting.
Yeah, that's so cool. That's good. Hey, John, can you pull up the baseball, the Blue Jays and the Texas Rangers?
Give me a second. I don't think I actually have that one queued up. So just give me 1 second.
Well, I'll talk about it real quick. I don't know. It's probably been 8 years ago now. The Rangers and Blue Jays are playing, and the guy, I can't remember who was doing what, but some guy slid real hard into second base and knocked the shortstop over, and they got up and were face to face. And the second baseman was like, push this guy away. The runner got back up and was within arm's reach, and so he pushed him away. And the runner came back at him again to get in his personal space again, and I think the guy's name was Odor. He just decked he plowed him right in the face. And I thought it was an actually pretty good progression of self-defense. At first, it was like, hey, you're in my space. I'm going to push you away from me. The guy came back again with his chest bowed out. And the second baseman, he did not hesitate at all. He just knew ahead of time, if this guy gets in my face, I'm decking this guy. And he didn't wait. He didn't give the runner time to think about what he was going to do. Yeah, I hit that, John, and it's one of the I think you might have to fast forward to where they show the slow-mo replay about halfway through. We do show some zoomed in close-ups. If you want to click about halfway through that video.
Okay.
You're getting there.
I think they're going to call a double play.
Fast forward just a little bit more. Yeah, this is good. Bench is clearing. No. Keep going.
Sorry,
I think you might have lost
everything queued up.
I think you might have lost a couple teeth. There we go. All right.
That's the kind of slide they're trying to eliminate.
Yep. And I think you saw Odor dropping down.
So there's like, get away from me. He comes back and blast him right. And it was very quick. It wasn't like we're just going to sit here and talk. It was, the Odor, the guy in the red, I think he had a previous experience where he's like, you know what? If some dude gets up in my face, it's very threatening. I'm not going to wait to get punched first. I'm not going to wait to get stabbed first. This is already threatening. I can already defend myself. So I'm going first. I'm going to reduce the amount of time this guy has to figure out in his brain what he's going to do. And I'm going first.
Yeah. It was a good punch. It was a good counter. I don't like using sporting event things to analyze real violence because of 100 different reasons. In terms of analyzing, the guy shoved and then he moved in again and he punched him. If this is part of our whose penis is bigger posturing in a game, right? And some people may disagree, and that's fine. You're entitled to be wrong. That's a joke.
I got it.
It's like tempers fly, heated. It's baseball, right? It's baseball. If I'm analyzing it like, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, well, that never works because then you escalate like that, right? And a guy breaks into my house, I don't go break into his house, right? It's like you gotta go. It's not an eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. You got to escalate fast, right? So you got to read the scenario. So I would look at that and go, was that punch warranted? What really happened, before that? Blah blah blah. If you're asking me to go, hey, Tony, what did you think? Just as a like tactical, if you knew there was no chance for de-escalation or avoidance, and this was going to go, throwing a right overhand, like as a guy shoving you, of course that's going to work. So,
yep. I know some like those officers that were standing around on the street corner. I just don't think they'd ever thought about, like, I'm trying to plan this ahead. Like, I don't want to get way behind the A-ball of trying to make up time where people get the drop on me. And like you said, playing Battleship, against these guys is definitely, you've got to be game planning that and have some type of, rules of engagement set up, like the war acronym, whatever the case is. You need to, in advance, know when you're going to do what type of physical action.
Well, but here's the thing, and that's, you're 100% right, Dave, but no one's getting trained anymore. Like, when's the last time, like you might you figured out shit on the job, but did you ever have a defensive tactics training where you came in, you weren't the second or third officer on the scene, and you had to read everything going on, and then like do scenarios where like you had to initiate the movement, even though you weren't the contact officer? Like, no one does scenarios like that, where you come in and you go, okay, nobody's acting decisively. So this is where shit can get a little crazy. In terms of inspiring a riot, inspiring another event that the mainstream media can manipulate, you create the stage for these opportunities by being indecisive and taking too long to frickin' make a decision. In other words, the longer the event, the bigger the lawsuit. The longer the event, the more film we can edit and go, oh, look, here's a police officer kneeling on his neck, right? But let's leave out like 9 minutes before that. And so, but nobody is reverse engineering scenarios, and this is why I'm so frustrated with the state of law enforcement training.
Do you think so? Do you think that this is a result of the fact that we are a society that's a microwave society, for lack of a better term, of like everything? It's like you just talked about, and there was a reference to the George Floyd incident, is like we all saw the you know, the minute clip of him, of the officer on his back. I want to say his neck, but we didn't see the 9 minutes before where he was resisting arrest, where he was absolutely just insanely high on drugs and was not complying, and all that stuff. And we'll get to non-compliance here in a minute, but because we're a society that's built on these short clips of video, we don't actually look at context of anything anymore. We don't look at any of that. Do you think that plays into the fact that people don't see the need for training and thinking through scenarios all the way through?
I don't know if that's the connection for that audience. I think what you described is the reason why, you know, everyone thought Harris was going to win and half the country this is because you can just take these little clips. And this is like interesting, like looking at let's say the Tyson, Jake Paul thing. Everyone saw little clips of Mike Tyson going, doing that. And then they didn't see him do that in the 8-round fight. So they went, oh, it must have been a complete fix because he couldn't do that. Well, anybody can do on pads or a bag an explosive flurry for a film. It's really different if there's 70,000 people, your knees bothering you, you got somebody punching you in the face at the same time, you don't feel good, you haven't fought in 18 years. And I don't want to turn this into and we can go down the Tyson Jake Paul thing, but what I like online after, everyone's going, I saw clips of him training for the fight. That wasn't the same guy. No shit. I've got clips of all these cops missing in gunfights, hitting targets on the range. I've got Instagram videos of guys going, they're not going to move like that in a gunfight. And they're not going to move like that in here's the operative word, a surprise gunfight. In our previous talks, I used the letters ACP, awareness, consent, preparation. When there's awareness, I am aware that I'm here in this dangerous place, and I agree to be here. I'm going to be in the octagon. I'm going to be on the street corner. I consent to be there. There should be preparedness. I need to in one of our training models, we talk about something called the ASAP model, which stands for awareness, suddenness, aggression, and proximity. And it basically says that our situational awareness and our ability to wax on, wax off, right? Do whatever we're going to do, draw a gun, get our knife out, throw a kick, block. Our awareness and the ability to direct our psychomotor skills is going to be affected by the suddenness, the aggression, and how close the threat is. And so, but again, in conventional self-defense and certainly in defensive tactics, nobody's looking at stuff like that. They're still working on, if someone grabs you by the badge, grabs your badge, they call it the badge grab. Hand on here, okay, you're gonna pin the wrist, do an arm bar. You go to arrest somebody, you go, okay, move to 2 o'clock, secure their wrist, secure their elbow. There's no scenario training where people are practicing what's actually going on. And so if I was in the Burlington police, there's another video, man, this hijacked my brain. Do you remember that cop that got murdered in Germany he got stabbed? It'll be easy to find if you just do a Google search on cop murdered at German festival. But he gets stabbed by a protester, and it was a anti religion of peace protest in Germany. And one of the cops gets murdered by somebody from the religion of peace, right? But here's the thing. There are 9 police officers watching 2 guys get stabbed who don't draw their gun. And if you understand their use of force training and what they do against a knife versus a gun versus multiple assailants, like nobody's looking like that. So if I were Burlington police right now, I'd look at that And in roll call the next day, I'd be like, okay, this happened. This sucks. Guys, let's talk about, 6 cops around one guy. Let's talk about presence on a street corner. Let's talk about where our hands go. Let's talk about dysregulated, emotionally disturbed person moving into a personal space. When should your hand come out and go, that is close enough? So we have optics of you trying to de-escalate and defuse. You don't stand there and let somebody hit you. Things are going to, there'd be a whole bunch of discussion about what's missing in our use of force policy and the subsequent training. Anyways.
I almost feel like defensive tactics training should be, I almost feel like these days, DT training, it should be like an everyday, if you just save it for the once a year training, that's 2-hour block or whatever, nothing gets accomplished. It's almost like it just some way somehow needs to be an ongoing aspect of training. It's doing scenarios, doing video review. It's just a constant never ending cycle, just like you would be training for any other type of martial art or any other journey you're on of getting good at something. It can't be just once a year for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Wow.
Is that the one you were talking about?
Yeah. Pull it back because it's buffering. So watch this. This is actually cut already. The guy walks in. These are security guards in the blue. Nobody knows what to do, understandably. Look at all the cops there. Everyone in black is a cop. He just stabbed that guy twice in the back of the neck. Finally, the cop shoots him.
Wow.
Again, like that first video, how fast did that happen? But
that whole video was 33 seconds.
Yeah.
From start to finish.
Slashed multiple people. One guy dies. But there were 6 or 7 cops circled around there, indexing their guns, had no clue what to do. How do you not know what to do? Pull out your gun, and I was afraid to hit him, run up and contact shoot him. So there was a police agency that used to bring us in, and we would do what everyone's calling entanglement stuff now. But we would run in and we taught these guys in our scenarios offline and contact shooting. So that you come onto a scene and there's a guy on top of an officer choking him, hitting him, nailing him. If you don't have the hand-to-hand skills and you feel like you can articulate this, you run in and one of the evolutions was contact shooting. And and again, I share that to everyone listening to this. I'm not giving you guys strategies and tactics. I'm sharing options and ideas. We are options facilitators here. We're not telling you to do anything. Force must always parallel danger. But if you had somebody who just stabbed multiple people and was, trying to maul somebody else with a knife, and you were worried about shooting somebody from 8 feet away and where that round might go if it went through them, run up to them and contact shoot them in that context there. But it was pretty crazy when you analyze what happened in that fight. You understand that agency has never done a scenario like that, and how they handle knife versus gun is very martial arty. It's not scenario part driven where you're trying to solve a problem. So
it's pervasive in law enforcement everywhere, where it's just the bureaucracy. Can I talk tonight? Bureaucracy of the agencies is just so much that they're worried about people getting hurt. We did some training about 10 years ago at our place, and it was one of the first times that we ever had somebody come in and do some very basic ground control training. And one guy twisted his ankle in the class and was
They stopped it.
like, well, that's it. We're never doing this again. We can't afford to have somebody off the street. And like, well, that's, it should be just an occupational hazard of training, of actually saving people's lives. But you can see how that stuff, and that's the same way all over the place.
Yeah. You want to, so one of the things, and this does mainly apply to police, but it's something that we had ready to go, was non-compliance and how we deal with non-compliance. And it could be basically a police officer arresting someone. We have a video queued up for that, but it could also apply to somebody in their home, as somebody broke in and, they didn't make the decision to shoot the person, but they're trying to get the person out of their house and they're not complying. So I'm going to play this video real quick. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to get Tony's thoughts on this. So one of the things we talk about in training a lot is this formula that I've seen in my law enforcement career be about 99% true. And the formula is non-compliance equals intent, which is code for if you tell somebody to do something like, hey, get away from me, or get out of my house, or I'm going to shoot you, or whatever, and they don't do what you're telling them to do, they're only thinking about two things. How am I going to escape somehow? Or how am I going to attack you? And if they're not running away, that really just leaves one option. They're trying to figure out how to get you. So whenever, sometimes you're in those situations where you don't quite know, like, what's this guy up to? Is this person really here to get me? Are they just drunk, or what's up? And the solution is give them very clear commands to do whatever you need them to do right now. Leave me alone, get away, get on the ground, drop the knife. And if they don't, if you get non-compliance, it means something is about to happen. And and if you want any police involved shooting video from now on, I encourage people to try and apply that formula and just see if it's true or not. And what we find on street level stuff is that's very true. And the cool thing about it is it helps you solve the problem. It helps you get to the next stage of what am I going to do next? Because then you gave somebody a clear command, they're not doing it. And now you know what their intentions are for sure. If there was any gray area before, now you know. And so now it's time to take action.
So here we'll watch this real quick.
Well, I know it's just a little bit of weed, but it's still the fact is that you got weed there.
This is Casey, South Carolina.
Don't tense up. Don't tense up. Just listen to me. What I'm trying to tell you is put your hand behind your back. Don't tense. You're tensing up. I'm gonna tell you, put your hand behind. No, listen to me.
It's how you hold. Pause that for a second.
I'm trying to.
So he's giving them a bunch of commands already. Put your hands behind your back. Don't tense up. Don't tense up. Don't tense up. And so my formula is non-compliance equals intent to either get away or to get you. And he's not running away. So this should tell these police officers only one thing in the entire world is about to happen. This guy is about to get you. And so we need to stop waiting because it's getting more and more dangerous every second that ticks by. So hit play on that again.
Explain to you. No. Listen to me. Listen to me. This is a little misdemeanor, okay? It's just a little thing. Okay. Do not pull away from me. Do not pull away from me, okay? Listen to me. No. Your arm is tense. Your arm is tense. Man, listen to me. Listen to me. You're pulling away. It's the way. Listen to me. You got my hand, man. Listen to me. You can charge resisting now. You can charge resisting. Stop. You have. Shut up, bitch! Oh! Go now! Shoot you! Shots fired! I'm down! Go down! To your hands!
Yeah, so the officer did shoot and kill the suspect behind that building, but only after it just went way too far.
Yeah. Did he hit the other officer?
Yeah.
Yes. So the suspect reached over the shoulder of the primary officer and shot the backup officer in the leg. All the cops were fine. Suspect did not make it.
Was a nice kid too.
I'm sure, but
yeah. I look at. I mean,
and we also saw this.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and then we also saw just the mental overload breakdown. You see a lot of shooting videos where the officers are just calm as a cucumber. They're calling out on the radio. They're directing other people to help out or getting medical. And this guy's brain just went on core meltdown because I don't think he thought anything bad would ever happen to him ever. Like nothing bad could ever happen because he was the cops, and nobody does bad things to cops.
Yeah, it's I mean, there's John, are you able to pop up that slide, the one that's the timeline of violence?
Yep, give me just 1 second.
So on this here, can it get any bigger? That's it. Let
me see. No, I can't. Okay,
that's fine. So you can see at the top times. This is a graphic from our one of our courses where we talk about the timeline of violence. D1, D2, D3, we lovingly refer to as the 3 Ds, and D1 is detect, D2 is diffuse, spelled DEFUSE, to take the fuse out. That's your de-escalation strategy. And then D3 is defend. Most of the defensive tactics, self-defense world, martial art world, spends their training in the D3 plus, meaning the training is like these officers have never done a scenario like that, right? But what they probably did is maybe 30 minutes of force on force training once 5 years ago or 10 years ago, where they're clearing a house and they're running around just, clearing an empty shoot house. That's not how gunfights happen, right? Gunfights happen exactly like this, at close quarter, where there's startle flinch, where there's fear, where we're in an area where our D1 spider sense is going, something's off here. You're tensing up, man. You're tensing up. Stay calm. What's going on? A lot of too many verbal cues. If we got cops on this call, Google an article I wrote in 1993 called "The Theory of Presumed Compliance." Google it. You'll find it online. Theory of Presumed Compliance. And that's this idea that I got a badge, I got a gun. You're not gonna do anything. You're just gonna listen to me. And what you end up doing is repeating yourself multiple times, as opposed to, like Dave said, hey, I'm going to tell you not to move, or I'm going to tell you to move. And when I train the cops we train, I go, if I give you a command, then I expect the behavior to change or to adhere to the command. Do not get up. If you start to stand up, then I immediately got to look at that as a threat. There's a problem. And you need to say to yourself, if this person doesn't comply, what are you ready to do next? And this is where the training comes in, because if you go, well, I don't know what I would do next because my DT instructor or my use of force policy doesn't give me examples, or my Krav Maga school or my Jiu-Jitsu school or my Taekwondo school doesn't tell me what to do here. When you practice Taekwondo, you practice using mostly kicks to solve force on force problems. When you practice Jiu-Jitsu, you use mostly grappling, specifically arm bars and triangle chokes and rear naked chokes to subdue and submit people. When you're a boxer, you're mostly using body shots, uppercuts, and hook punches. Each martial art creates an unconscious bias to use a very specific subset of the arsenal to solve the problems. That's the problem. We're not looking at stuff from the scenario. And so the scenario, if you look at timeline of violence, the timeline of violence says, what is the scenario? In the graphic here, the guy pointing is the suspect, and the weird looking figure on the left is the person with the nonviolent posture, Trojan horse, right? And in that moment, notice they're underneath D2, D3, because like in the video we just watched, D3 represents where the aggressor is. The aggressor in their head is thinking, I got to shoot these guys and run away, right? He's thinking about the physical action that will create escape and safety for him. But we can't read his mind. We're only just going like something's off here. So it's an important graphic, and there's you know, we usually spend about 90 minutes breaking down everything in here. I'm not going to do this here, but the you know, to your point, Dave, I mean, you're right on. If you're saying, you know, 15 times, relax, 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 but these guys needed different language. They needed, like, if I walk up to that guy and I'm in close quarter and I go, listen, do you have any weapons on you? The guy's eyes or body language would have changed completely. Very dangerous if I put my hands on you and I'm trying to arrest you, right? Like, but I need to be ready to go. Like if I say, do you have any weapons? And the guy goes, I'm a human weapon. And then he moves. Are you ready to intercept that? So again, this comes back to the training. But anyways, I want to share this graphic here because it's super important during the D2 where you're trying to diffuse and de-escalate, where you're saying to the guy, look, man, this is just a misdemeanor. You're not in a lot of trouble, but we do need to arrest you. But they didn't say, do you have a gun? Do you have any outstanding warrants? Are you dangerous? Are you going to try and kill us in a minute? Right? And if you ask people questions like that, it's amazing how their behavior changes really quickly.
Yeah. Yep, exactly. And that's, you know, also, I love all these graphics you got, Tony. This one, the cycle of behavior, you know, you guys are the graphic kings. I think I love it. It gives everybody a very good visual interpretation of the process and what's going on. So I did want to touch on one other thing before we get out of here, and that's kind of the recent Lake and Riley murder down at the University of Georgia. Suspect just got convicted here yesterday, I think. Life in prison. And there's a lot of people out there, maybe some watching, that have a daughter in college, or they've got the young girls growing up, you know, 13, 14 years old. And I'm wondering what, you know, your advice would be to these kids going off to college. You know, how do we prepare them? It's not just a one-day thing or a week-long class, but how do we start to prepare these young women to defend themselves and get ready for the real world?
Yeah. So a couple of things, and you know, one of these days maybe we'll co-sponsor an event through, you know, Righteous Savages and Survival Dispatch. We'll do something and see if people want to train. I just answered this on a LinkedIn post with where we posted a video. We should actually play it here when we sign off. It's the video that's on my it's on my LinkedIn. It's on my Instagram. It's pretty wild. If you can get to it, it's a 3.5 minute video of a story of me at one of our weekend seminars. But this guy on LinkedIn said, hey, you got to keep it simple, and you got to really practice, and it's a lifelong practice. And I have figured out that you don't need to train in martial arts for your life to be able to defend yourself. There is a hidden arsenal inside of how we move and how we think. What's missing is the ability for the average person to generate aggression when and where they need to apply it. And so I figured out, and I've been studying violence, fear, and aggression for decades now. There's a special type of anger called indignation. And there are some simple movements that people can learn to do that they already possess in them. And so we literally tell people we can make you safer in a day. And that sounds like bullshit. If you've been training your whole life, it sounds like bullshit, but we have a course called Be Your Own Bodyguard. And it's not about learning martial arts. Look, you cannot learn a martial art in a day. Dave or John, how long would it take me to teach one of your family members, 15, 16-year-old, how to use a shotgun inside their house, behind a door, off to the side of a door, how to hold the gun at the door, give verbal commands. The police have been called. Please, you're on camera. Do not enter my house. How long would it take me to teach somebody to say that? Honestly.
Honestly, I mean, you could probably teach a child how to do that in half an hour.
Half an hour. And how long would it take me to teach a teenager how to hold the gun and how to fire a shotgun? That's let's say 8 shots or 4 shots, whatever.
Yeah, my 12-year-old can do it,
right? So. But really, what I'm saying is, you know, you can take a first aid course from a paramedic or a firefighter, and in 4, 5, 6 hours learn life-saving skills. But you're not a paramedic, you're not an EMS, and you're not a doctor. In the same way, you can learn self-defense in a day, but you're not a black belt, you're not a martial artist, you're not a martial art instructor. If I don't know if I did this with you guys last time, but if and for everyone's entertainment purposes, pretend we have an imaginary air driving wheel. We're driving in a car. Both of you guys do this. I know this seems lame. Now you're driving and you got an old car that doesn't have like a seatbelt alarm, but all of a sudden you see a police checkpoint ahead. You're slowing down and you go, fuck, I don't have my seatbelt on. I'm in my 67 Mustang with my roof down. The cops can't see you. I want you to really quickly, and everyone watching this show, do this if you're not driving, really quickly with your right arm, grab your seatbelt really quickly. Just grab your seatbelt. Okay? Reach across. That's a horizontal elbow. This is how I teach women, relax. This is how I teach women with no martial art training to elbow somebody across the face. So if I'm in here choking you and you're like this, I tell them, grab your fucking seatbelt as fast and as hard as you can. And they go like this. Wow. And that's a horizontal elbow that splits a fucker open in there. Now they've done 0 martial arts and they can blast you. And here's the thing. You go to learn an elbow strike, and this is just one example. We got examples for knees, for palm strikes, for finger gouges and stuff like this. If I said to you, you got to go learn a martial art and learn an elbow at a martial arts school, how many reps are you going to do before you think you've got the complex motor skill to do the elbow? Someone's going to say 10,000 reps. Someone's going to say years. You got to get your brown belt, blue belt. They're going to create a stigma associated to it. Let me ask you guys this. You're 15, 16-year-old kids. You're 20, because we're talking about kids going away to college and the Lake and Riley thing. But everyone else on this call, how many times have we put on a seatbelt in a car in our life? No clue. What if you had a self-defense instructor that said, every time you scratched your back, you did a vertical elbow. Every time you put on a seatbelt, passenger driver, you did a horizontal elbow. Every time you grabbed a melon to see if it was right, you could grab somebody's head and stick your fingers in their eyes. Every time you did a push-up, it's the same kinetic chain as a palm strike. Every time you lifted up your leg, put your foot up on a chair to tie your running shoe, you were working through the exact range of motion of a knee. And you've done these reps 10,000 times. So this hidden arsenal is in you. What's missing is your ability to direct that movement into somebody's face, throat, balls, leg. And we figured out how to teach that in a day. And at the end of the course, you might go, man, I'm still scared. Should I do more? Well, the answer would be yes. But I can teach you to protect your home in a matter of hours with a pistol or a gun. If at the end of that, you go, you know what? You're here and you're like, oh, wow, pretending to spin my SIRT pistol. I feel pretty good with that. Get your fucking finger off the trigger, man. Like we're still training. If I say to you, now you know the basics, and you could, God forbid, defend your home tonight. If you said, I'm still really nervous around guns, I would say, call up Dave and John and fucking go shoot. Right? So I always start with a scenario. I don't start with technique. I don't start with mechanics. For another reason, I know that those mechanics go out the window. Those biomechanics and complex motor skills go out the window in a high stress situation. So I'd rather start somebody with that. So I just say this. This is a long answer to, hey, this guy just got life. She fought for 18 minutes, which is outrageous. He murdered her. All the shit around it's awful. What do we tell our kids? What do we tell our wives? What do we tell ourselves? And if you look at that video, and maybe we play it as we fade out here, or put the link in the chat for people or whatever.
You said it's on Instagram?
Yeah, it's on my personal Instagram, and it's on my LinkedIn page and Facebook. But the message is, what would you do? Do you know what you would do? Like, because it's so different than, again, the ACP, awareness, consent, preparation. Like, I agree to do this. And I would say this to go back to specifically the tragedy that occurred. I live in a very nice neighborhood. There's a park at the bottom of our hill that connects to a small country highway and another road. And when we moved here 15 years ago, my daughter, who was 22, she's 22 now. So, I mean, she was like 8 or 9. She goes, Dad, can I go down to play at the park? And I said, only if you take one of the dogs. And she goes, I don't want to take the dogs, Dad. They're not going to watch the dog. I go, well, then you got to go with your sister or your brother. She goes, they don't want to come. I said, then you can't go. Why? And I didn't want to say to her, because there are 2 roads that attach to that park where some fucker could kidnap you. And I would never see you again. And there are bad people around here. People see like a 9 or 10-year-old kid playing alone in the park. If they're opportunistic, if they're a human trafficker, if they're, like a serial rapist killer, like that's, man, could you imagine that? So what I'm getting at here is, I don't care if you like to run. You need to run with a buddy. I don't care if you are a pacifist and you think everyone's beautiful and everyone's got a story. You should have some OC on you and take a basic self-defense course. If you're one of those people that are alone, and there's little things you could do that I guarantee, and this is a horrible thing to say, but if there was a time machine and the day before her run, I said, hey, listen, a guy's going to murder you tomorrow unless you run with 1 or 2 of your girlfriends. Well, none of my friends want to get up this early and run. Okay, so like this is happening tomorrow. I guarantee if she knew that, she'd have changed the run.
Yeah. Yep. 100%. And, that's where people just fall into that false sense of security. And I wonder what the stats are on like for women, for example, who have been attacked, sexually assaulted when there's 2 of them versus just 1. That's a
great question.
It's probably astronomically almost 0. Like, so just that one little tip right there, it's worth your life. Yeah, that's very valuable. That's very valuable information.
It's in our program, I don't know if at the bottom of that graphic that I showed, timeline of violence, it says choose safety. The choose safety model basically says, what is the safest thing I could do right now? It's not about playing it safe, but just what is the safest thing I could do? And so I saw just an FYI, I just saw somebody, it was you guys that put our website there. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Somebody asked for your website, so I just put it up. So.
Yeah. Thank you. All of my stuff is there. If you guys go there, but I got a better one. If you guys can put up this one, This one takes them to just to show everything that we do. It's BlauerTrainingSystems.com. The other one has access to it all, but that's more of our training site. But this one has access to our fear management, our other stuff as well. So put both up there if you can. Yeah, it's awful, but it's awful to say this, gang, but you know, I mean, there are bad people out there. There always have been, and
yeah. And I just want to, yeah, man, I appreciate it, Tony. I just want to offer out there to everybody, as a 29-year law enforcement veteran, you know, I started watching Tony's stuff probably 20 years ago, and it is just a wealth, a treasure trove of information, not only on the physical side of self-defense, but on the mental and psychological aspect of how we deal with it, fear management, you know, dealing with, you know, the suspect's mindset, what they're thinking about, just on and on and on. And you are really, especially if you're in law enforcement, please, for the love of everything holy, check out some of this stuff, the Human Weapon System program that Tony's got. And get into a spear class at the very least if you see one of those come around your agency somewhere, and also that be your own bodyguard for anybody out there in the civilian world. Man, I love the what you talked about earlier about how I think people are just nervous about self-defense, and they think in their mind, well, this is going to be a 10-year program. I really don't want to have to start something like that. But just understanding that, yeah, you can learn some basic things in a day. We can teach you this stuff, and it's not so overwhelming. So, man, I just really appreciate all your stuff you got out there, and highly encourage everybody to check it out.
Yep. Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's wonderful. And real quick, we always like to leave our audience with some practical tips, some marching orders, and kind of give them something to do. So I jotted down a couple of things. So homework. Number one, always be vigilant in public places. Stay off of your phone. Always scan your surroundings for possible threats. 2, do not go to places that have a history of crime or violence alone. Always take somebody with you. If you're having to go someplace that is kind of sketchy and there's no way around it, don't go alone. That's inviting. That's exactly what we just talked about. Train for scenarios. Walk through them in your mind. Your body will not go where your mind has not gone before. That's part of what Tony always talks about, is creating those neural pathways to know what to do when the situation arises. This is a practical tip that I always use. You know, when I'm in a restaurant, I always sit towards the entrance. I know the ways to escape. I know all of the exits. And if I'm with my family, that's even more important, because if somebody comes in the front door shooting, I need to know how to get out the back door with my family, with my wife and kids. Get training. Number 5, get training on how to respond to the possibility of sudden violence. It's what we've been talking about all night. And I think even just a little bit of training will allow you to be light years ahead of anybody that's coming after you. So you guys have anything to add to those before we wrap up?
No, I think it's a good reminder. What I do want to tell people is the most important part of, you know, self-defense is obviously the awareness piece, right? No awareness, no chance. But you need to go deeper into the awareness piece and not just say head on a swivel, look for the anomalies. That's a given. Like I said earlier, it's very subtle, but everyone who picked up a bad vibe still went, oh my God, is this really happening? I can't believe this is happening. Should I move? Should I call the police now? What should I do? That's the self-talk that becomes kind of like this emotional quicksand where you're just stuck there going, what am I doing? What am I doing? What am I doing? That's where the training comes in. So this is that choose safety connection. So spend a lot of time. Remember this little motto, no awareness, no chance. I need to create that connection between, I just saw this, now what should I do? And You can gamify it. You can gamify it, meaning look at things online, look at things in the news, and ask yourself, what would I have done here? And if you don't have an answer, like within a second, it means you don't have an answer, which means you need to do some research. You need to do some training, because the answers should come quickly. Well, if it's this, I'll do this. If it's this, I'll do this. And when you've got those answers, you're developing what I call mind speed, and the mind navigates the body. So you're not going to wax on, wax off faster if your mind is slow.
Yep, completely agree. Well, Tony, thank you. Real quick, everybody out there, if you're not a member of the Insiders, the Patreon, oh, look who just showed up. Mr. Chris Heaven, right at the end. Look at this guy.
The end.
Welcome, sir.
The end. I got this memo said that we were starting at 8:21 Eastern time.
Yeah. He's been out there selling gold, giving away silver bullets. So,
check it out. I got 3 of them here.
Nice.
We're gonna raffle off a couple of these to survival.
For zombies or what? What's that for?
They kill a werewolf.
You know, yeah. Check out how big they are compared to like a Pilgrim Ammo 9mm. They got some weight to them. Tony, that's 99.999% pure silver, the same size as a 45 ACP.
Is it a real bullet?
It's no. It's real silver. It's not a real bullet.
Okay, I mean,
just shaped like a bullet.
But I mean, with your physical talents, if you seen a werewolf, you had one of these, you throw it at them. Probably.
Right.
Awesome. Yeah. So I was just giving everybody the spiel on Patreon, and kind of closing out everything, Chris. So, you know what? You came in. I'm going to let you do it.
Well, please like, share, comment, subscribe. God bless America.
We will be back tomorrow at 7 Eastern with our regularly scheduled program. Mr. Heaven will be back in the driver's seat. Thank you guys for letting me guest host tonight, and there's much more of that coming down the road. So we'll see you guys soon, and God bless America.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Amen.
Take care, guys.
Give me a hypothetical response on the part of CCW Safe to Alan Coley's, incident.
Yeah. Well, we have ever since the beginning, we always err on the side with our member. And if they are granted a hearing on self-defense or self-defense standing, then we're going to provide services, period. We've had and you talked about the stand your ground, even brandishing. A lot of those cases, we get them an attorney. And even if it's something outside of our terms of service, we're not going to, we don't say you got to pay that money back. So we're always going to start services immediately. We're always going to get a retainer, get bond if we have to bond them out, whatever.